The catch is made by DJ Moore, still going across midfield, inside the 40, the 30.
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you believe? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcasts on Twitter. Welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by the Carolina Panthers all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. Schuyler Callihan will return this Friday, beat writer for the Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets for Sports Illustrated. Literally just walked back into his door from his honeymoon, just got married last week. He was out all last week. And actually, we could have used him today because there's been a lot of transactions going on. Of course, we're your spot to get all your latest news and notes. We will get into this game from Sunday. Panthers falling on the road to the Cincinnati Bengals in a blowout. 42-21 was your final. And honestly, it wasn't that close. We'll give you our observations on that game. Short week. Carolina taking on Atlanta this Thursday, Amazon Prime. Carolina's only primetime game of the season. We'll talk about that. For all the Panther fans that are standing on that ledge right now and looking over and wondering if you want to just go ahead and jump over, I'll just leave you with the words of my man, Jonathan Stewart, who sent this through to us in our group text late last night. I like how you slipped it in there too. You were just like, guys, we're still in it. And I stared at that text for like 5 straight minutes. When you sent it through, I just stared at it. I was like,
doing the calculations in your brain.
Yeah, I was just like, we're 2-7. How are we still? We are still in it. There's 8 games left in this. What is happening? Like this has got to be one of the weirdest seasons in Carolina Panthers history in terms of just everything that has happened so far. We're only halfway through this season, so I get it. I know a lot of you guys were ready to throw in the towel. You're already looking at the draft and all this other stuff. Just hold tight. That's what we're here for at the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. Either way, we're gonna have fun. So we're gonna figure out a way to keep you entertained twice a week. Our Thursday show will be Friday since the Panthers are playing on Thursday. Before we get into all this stuff, we'll get you caught up on everything that's happened over the past 24 hours. A word from our buddies over at Bet Online. Football is back, and Bet Online remains your #1 source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. And that is from Bet Online, where the game starts. And where we start is a recap of this game. I don't really know. It just felt like you start this off, because I don't even know how to express in the words like the vibe yesterday. Flat. Maybe that's the best way to put it. They just came out flat, like both sides. And I have no explanation for it. What were your thoughts?
It's exactly that. I mean, we've been playing really upbeat. The energy's been there the last couple of weeks, even last week when we lost to the Falcons. The energy was there. And I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like we were real lethargic. Responding to where the ball's going on defense seemed very delayed. Like the anticipation there, just fundamental things, to be honest. Outside contain. On defense, that did not happen. I mean, I think Mixon had at least two of his touchdowns were bouncing it outside. So
it was almost like the Panthers defense decided that they weren't going to tackle properly yesterday. Like, that was one of the things. I'm not saying it was the Panthers defense that lost this game. They had a hand in it, but it just felt like, I don't know, the past couple of weeks they were gang tackling kind of.
Yeah.
And they were not doing that yesterday.
And I just feel like that was a testament to the energy and just trusting their instinct, knowing where they got to be, and just, answering the call. I don't think we did that on both sides, on either side of the ball. yesterday.
I have to admit, this is really the first time I've really sat here and looked at this box score. And it's I have to laugh at it. I'm just like, I don't even know if we could have did this if we intentionally tried to do this yesterday. Um, John Jenkins, excuse me, fan of the program. He's been on this whole Walker Wonder, this hashtag thing, and we were like, let's give PJ a couple games to see how this plays out. Usually the law of averages will kind of get you to a mean, and he wants to apologize to us. Walker Wonder was not witness. He may have jinxed him with his overhype. Maybe. I didn't realize PJ was 3 for 10 for 9 yards passing yesterday, with 2 interceptions.
Yeah, that won't get done, but man, I don't know. It's tough because traveling on the road. I don't know what the environment was like there. I don't know if it was loud. I don't know if the turf was cold. I don't know. I don't know what was going on, but you know, that's not obviously it's going back to the trend of 3 and outs, right? You can't win games if you're going 3 and out. And if you're a defense that can't get off the field, that's not helping either.
I mean, the running game, we couldn't get the running game going. A team that had rushed for over 170 yards on average the 2 games prior rushed for 64 yards yesterday. Deonta Foreman, 7 carries for 23 yards. Spencer Brown, 3 carries for 16 yards. Like, there just wasn't anything going on. Most of these stats came in the second half after the game was decided. Carolina was down 35-0 at the half. And there was one moment in the game when I knew it was over, when it was a wrap. It was about, I think it was second quarter, when the Bengals scored on that pick 6 touchdown, and they did the Remember the Titans walkout on us. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, they all got in the thing and started, they started doing that. And I was like, oh, this is over. I see this on Friday nights. Like, this is high school stuff I see. And they're out here doing this to us in the second quarter. Like, I tweeted it like the high school team that I do play-by-play for, my alma mater, East Forsyth here in North Carolina. They're undefeated. They're a high seed. The state playoffs have started. They played 10 games in the regular season, and 6 of them we were on a running clock starting the third quarter. In North Carolina, if you're up by 42 points at any point in the game, they start a running clock where it doesn't stop for halftime or whatever. It felt like that on Sunday. Like, it felt like it felt like I was watching a team play an inferior team, and they were just doing whatever they wanted. And it's usually what I see on Fridays. You see that more often at the high school level, not at the pro level, because most of these teams are fairly even in terms of talent and the roster. Of course, some are going to have more stars than others, but the base of most of these teams are pretty much the same. And it just felt like preparation yesterday. And I don't want to put that on Steve Wilkes and the coaching staff. It just looked like they got blitzed yesterday. And I honestly have no explanation for it. I know you guys come here for analysis and, good times, but I don't know what happened. I have no clue what happened yesterday. Like, I was not expecting that.
Well, I can tell you what happened. 30 first downs to 13 first downs.
Oh, gosh.
2 for 8 third down efficiency came pretty much in the second half. 48 total plays, 72 plays. Listen, this is kind of the same stuff we were doing early on in the season. And I don't know, man. Like, often, if your defense is struggling to stop the run, your offense has to do its job by staying on the field too. So that's not complimentary football. The last 2 weeks we've been playing complimentary football, giving ourselves an absolute good chance of winning games. Yesterday was not complimentary from any vantage point, right? So
yeah,
I think that's where I don't know if it's like game plans that you're like to me, it didn't really look like our game plan was
I don't know.
Wasn't there. I didn't see any similarities to previous weeks as far as starting the game off and committing to the line of scrimmage. How do we control the line of scrimmage?
I was going to ask this question, but it's open mailbag. We basically every episode's open mailbag. So if you're watching this on YouTube, on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel, or on Facebook Watch, you can ask us questions while we're live doing this show, and we will incorporate you into the game or into the show. Donald Duck asks, does yesterday's performance hinder Steve Wilks' chance for head coach next season, and does confirm that Golden Corral won't get a fair shot? I assume he's talking about Matt Corral. In my opinion, I would prefer drafting Will Anderson over CJ or Bryce. I don't know if one game does Steve Wilks in, considering he just fired 2 staff members today. And we'll get to that in just a second. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is his to run for the rest of the year. Now, going into next year, we don't know what David Tepper's preference is. I love Steve Wilks. But y'all know where I stand. I've been on this bus since last week. I want Jim Harbaugh. I wanted Jim Harbaugh 3 years ago when we hired Matt Rule. And I think for me, it's even worse now because I saw David Tepper give Matt Rule $65 million. So I'm like, why not give Jim Harbaugh $80 million and come in here and do what he wanted to do? That's why he's not in the pros. He left San Francisco because they wouldn't give him the type of roster control that Jim Harbaugh wanted in San Francisco. Like that's why he left. He was having a clash with the front office, and they wouldn't let him have that kind of authority. Matt Rule got that authority walking in the door, and he never won anything. Jim Harbaugh has been to the college football playoff and a Super Bowl in the past 10 years. Like, go get that dude. Keep Steve Wilks as your defensive coordinator. That would be my dream scenario. If it's Steve Wilks, that means we had a 5-6 game winning streak somewhere along this stretch, and things are looking up. So either way, I feel pretty good about wherever they go with this coaching carousel or whatnot. But the quarterbacks, I'm not sure about. They did answer this question. Schuyler did just post an article on SI about the starting quarterback situation. PJ will start this Thursday night, which makes sense. It's a short week, and he's the one that's most able. Sam Darnold just came off the IR today, or he's available starting today. So it's a crowded quarterback room. They did cut rookie Jacob Eason a little bit earlier to make room on the roster for Sam coming back. Brad Tippett, and who will be the vet QB they have on the roster to complement basically 2 rookie quarterbacks? You guys are thinking ahead.
Yeah.
You guys are way ahead.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not even that far ahead, and don't need to be ahead.
We got 8 games to go. We got 2 whole months of football left.
Yeah, and I think what's happening right now is everyone needs to get off. You need to spend time away from your phone, first of all, because all y'all do is just click on things, purchase things immediately. The instant gratification in our society is messing up sports. It's messing everything up, right? There's a process to this. It's not a 7-year process, but it's a process, right? Like Steve Wilks has these guys playing. Yesterday was not a great show. It's not a great show. And we just listed off the things of why it wasn't. But I can tell you this. Players play and coaches coach. I'll take that to the grave. And we've seen what these players can do and what ignites them underneath Coach Wilks. So there's no question to that of who Coach Wilks is as a coach, as a leader of men. All this coaching talk, it's time for us to really say, hey, players got to play, okay? And I'm pretty sure if you listen to anything that's being said, interviews or, locker room talk, those guys are in there looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, we got to play better. And that's plain as day. And it's fun when it comes down to it, it's fundamentals. Pitch and catch, tackle, set the edge, block.
Stuff we talked about
run hard.
Of the year that Matt Wilks has been doing.
And I'll tell you from experience, like all those things sound easy, right? Sound easy, but the game is hard. It's a man's game. This is not a game where you just, go put on a uniform and because you're stacked up on the roster that you just go out there and you win a game based off of what the paper says.
It's not Madden. That's the thing I tell people all the time. This is not Madden, where you can construct a roster and things are supposed to go a certain way because you can control them with your hands. That's not what this is. That's why I get irritated when people are like, well, we should get CJ Stroud with the third pick of the draft. We don't know where we're picking. We don't know who's going to be. Like, stop it.
Stop.
It's early November. I get it. We're 2-7. I totally get it.
Because I just want to let y'all know, in January, when we in them playoffs, if we are in those playoffs in January, I'm looking at everybody. I'm going to go through and type in on Twitter and search the words Panthers, like anything bad about the Panthers. I'm gonna search it, and I'm gonna block every single person that says something bad.
You realize, to get to your 10-win prediction, we have to win every game left on the schedule.
Yeah, hey,
like,
look,
there's no room for error.
Hey, we might not get them 10 wins, but the playoffs is still there.
Hold on, let me. You know what? With all of this, I literally unplugged after that game. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to watch any more games. I'm not going to do nothing. Like, my weekend has been weird. I'm just not going to do it. I want to see the NFC South standings. And you're absolutely right. The Bucks and the Falcons are at the top of the Bucks lead because they beat the Falcons earlier this year. They're both 4-5. The Saints are 3-5. We're 2-7. We're 2 games out of first. And we beat Tampa already once. So as weird as it sounds,
we beat the Saints already once.
We beat the Saints already once.
So if we win, this next game is very pivotal.
It really is. It really is. Like, it's crazy because, you know, something that's weird about it too. The Falcons basically did Falcon stuff yesterday. The Chargers tried to give the game away. What happened? The Falcons got a fumble recovery, fumbled on the fumble recovery. The Chargers got the recovery.
They was playing with that 28-3 team.
Yeah. So the Falcons they've clearly none of these teams in the NFC South are like one of these top teams that we're seeing. They're not even like a Minnesota that's not getting talked about, and they've lost 1 game or whatever so far this season. They're not even that. They're not the Chiefs. They're not the Bills. They're not even like the Ravens or the Titans. There's no team in this division that all of us should just be like, they're just light years ahead of. And I can keep saying that while we've got road to drive on. We still have, again, 2 months here. There's enough time to get a little streak going, a little 2-game, 3-game streak. I'm not saying they will. And matter of fact, I haven't seen anything that suggests they will. But that opportunity is there. And they are getting some people back healthy. And they're starting to get into division play, which, again, I've just laid out all those games. I don't know how you can favor any team over the other team in this division. So
the next we play on Thursday, I want them to force feed Deontay Foreman, first of all. Force feed him.
What did he have? He had 7 carries.
7 carries. Force feed that man.
No, well, some of that's because we got down so fast, I would imagine.
I know. Don't panic.
Your defense, they didn't throw it very far. When they had to get into situations to get down the field, they still didn't let PJ throw it down the field. Right. So,
I mean, DJ Moore didn't get a pass until the second half.
Yep. See, that we can't do this. We can't
feed Deontay Foreman, feed DJ Moore early and often. That's the name of the game.
Coach Wilkes is live at the podium right now. You know what? We might flip over to that in just a bit. Willie Smith, thank you for your managed and realistic expectations for the Panthers. I don't know. Stu's saying we're gonna win 10 games, so I don't know if it's managed and realistic.
Listen.
He's just sticking to the script. That's where he's been at for like a month and a half. So I respect the gangster, you know.
I'm a man of my word. I ain't backtracking on nothing. It's gonna be a hard task. We will know if it's achievable on Thursday. On Thursday, I might change my tune. Okay, depending on what happens.
I think they can pull this off. I mean, they're at home. I mean, this is a home game Thursday night. They haven't won a road game all year, but they have won the 2 games they've won. They've been at Bank of America Stadium. They should have beat Atlanta the first time. So it's kind of like, you know, it's not like it's far-fetched. And Atlanta's kind of banged up a little bit. So before we go a little bit further, let's go ahead and drop in on Steve Wilkes here and see what he's got to say, because I'm curious myself. We're not going to stay here very long, but let's check him out here. Here's Steve Wilkes at the podium. This is courtesy of Panthers YouTube channel. Let's just hear what he's got to say.
In the quarterback room to keep all three of these guys, or you think you're going to make a move?
You know, right now we have no ambitions or conversations about trying to move anyone.
Going back to yesterday for a bit, you were able to get Amari Barno, Brandon Smith into the game, some young guys to put together them. Obviously, they came in into the game of that.
It was good for those guys to be able to come in and get some quality reps in a game. We're constantly still trying to develop these young guys. We feel real good about those guys. That's the reason why we drafted them. I thought they flew around and did some good things. Brandon had a TFL that ended up missing a tackle in the backfield and jet sweep. So just that speed on the field to me is important, and that's what you saw at times when we were lacking a little bit.
Steve, obviously they did not have Patterson the last time you faced Atlanta. How does he elevate their run game?
I think he's a dynamic player, run game, as well as in the kicking game where he initially establishes his reputation and name in this league. So he's definitely going to create a spark for them. And as someone already alluded to, we got to do a great job stopping the run this week.
You have been very adamant, Steve, around this and about tanking. You said it, I think, at least 2 different times. What would your reaction be when folks see what PJ did yesterday with a 0.0 and still gets started recording?
I would say probably trust the process and trust my decision making. That's what I would tell them. And once again, we all have bad games. PJ wasn't the only one. So we got to play on Thursday. I can bench everybody if we go all bad games. You know?
I'm ready to go play right now through this.
I know, right?
Behind PJ, and
One person's out there talking that.
definitely give him the things that he needs from a game plan standpoint. He can go out and execute.
We'll wait
Steve,
for
would
one
this
more.
decision been different if games on Sunday and not Thursday?
It's hard to say about that, Darren. No. Again, I'm only going based off, what we're doing this week and when we're playing. So I couldn't really answer that in regards to Sunday.
How is Sam progressing?
We'll leave it right there. Some interesting questions there in the little piece that we showed. Friend of the program, Joe Person, asking the question about the tanking or whatever. They're not tanking. They're trying to win football games. Like, they're not trying to lose football games. They're trying to win them. They just got bulldozed Sunday. The Bengals look like they came out focused with a specific plan of attack, and they executed it like to perfection. Meanwhile, we just had things kind of snowball. And when you get a team that starts to run it on you like that, that's what we wanted on our end. That's what we got the past 2 weeks. And then Derek Brown got sick or something in the middle of the game. So that's out the middle of your defensive line. Jeremy Chin didn't play yesterday. He was able to, but not. He'll play Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Dante Jackson didn't play yesterday. So that's your starting cornerback that's out. It was just kind of a perfect recipe for disaster. And that's what happened. So we're not going to.
I like the point that he was making there, too, is, getting the young guys some opportunity for some reps. And it almost leads me to think that this game, how I said last week, this game, it matters, but it don't.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons game is the one that matters.
Yeah.
So, especially going into a game on a short week, keep the guys that you're going to need fresh. Keep them ready to go, so that way you can actually go unload on somebody. Because what you then have is 8 days until your next game?
Yeah, it's almost like a mini bye, really. So you can get people healthy. You, my boy, Bleav. I've said this before. I've said this to Schuyler all of last year and then the beginning of this year. My favorite thing about Coach Wilks is that he doesn't sound like a used car salesman. He sounds accountable. Matt Rule did.
He ain't sandwiching nothing.
Nah, he's just telling you straight up what's going on. This is my thought process. Even just a little bit we just watched.
Yeah.
You
trust the process and trust my decision making.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, I'm the one that made the decision. So I like the bluntness. It's not even like arrogance either. It's just like, you ask the question, I'm gonna answer it.
The sureness.
Yeah, there's no vague gray area of what did that mean, or did he skip around the question or any of that stuff. He doesn't really do that yet. I'm looking through. It's open mailbag day here as Panther Nation's trying to get through One of the worst defeats that we've had in quite some time. Actually, I was trying to think of one that was worse than that one yesterday. At one point, it was 42-0 before Baker came in and started cleaning up a little bit. Michael Woodrick echoes our sentiment here. I hope Deonta Foreman gets more carries and the defense gets back at Atlanta. So do we. Hopefully it didn't get left behind or whatever up in Cincinnati. Hopefully they'll be ready to go. Willie Smith, it looks like we were between the Falcons game and had not transitioned to play the Bengals. That thought crossed my mind, actually, watching the game, that maybe do you think that they were still emotionally attached to that game from last Sunday, the way they lost that game to the Falcons, or does that even exist in a professional athlete's mind? That's a good question to ask you. Do you guys carry outcomes of games previously, the game before, into the next week, or is it truly a clean slate, focus on the team in front of you?
I mean, I think it's definitely it's a challenge. You know what I'm saying? Looking at that game, you talking about the Cleveland game with the Bengals.
Or for us, losing the way we did to the Falcons the week before, does that carry over into the next week where it could be the flat performance because they're still thinking about the Falcons, especially since they got to play them again in 4 days?
I think it could also, the lingering effect, you know what I'm saying, of just the intensity, the emotion. It's a very draining type of game. It takes a while to recover from that throughout a week, even to not just lose, but to lose the way they did when they had it right there in their hand, but good teams know how to shake those off. So if we're gonna, lay our head on the fact that they were thinking about last week's loss, you had all week to lick those wounds and then move on. So, but I will say, going back to what I was thinking about the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals got embarrassed because Cleveland was running that rock whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
And the Bengals didn't, and they couldn't. So I'm pretty sure when you lose a game like that, your coaching staff is in those meeting rooms saying, hey, this is the challenge. I'm challenging you guys to rise above what this game was. And we got the Panthers next week. I don't know what their rank is in run stop, but it's not that great. So if we can't run on them, then shame on us. Mm-hmm. And then, from Joe Burrow's standpoint is, who are you without your top receiver? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those questions are floating around, and, a lot of guys saying, I don't take them serious. Desmond calling them fraudulent. So he probably heard you call them fraudulent.
Wait, hold on. What?
Yeah,
wait, what now? Yeah. I didn't call the Bengals fraudulent. That was the dude. That's Cam Rogers from Bleav. He's the one that called him fraudulent. I was just
okay.
He predicted us to win this game and said the Bengals would basically.
Yeah, Cam Rogers. Yeah, Cam Rogers did. My bad.
He tagged me in it, but no.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I ain't putting that on you. My bad, my dog.
But no, he and I already hit him Sunday before the game was over. I was like, this did not age well. This was not a good take. That game to me felt like the Bengals offensive line took it personally. They took that game over. Our defensive line was getting pushed back 2-3 yards into our linebacking core, and Mixon wasn't getting touched as a former running back, those are the games you would love. I'd have to assume the ones where you don't even get contact until 3-4 yards past the line of scrimmage.
And you're playing pickable.
Yeah, you're playing backyard ball at that point. So, Mixon had himself a day. He rushed for 153 yards. He had 4 touchdowns on the ground. He had another one in the air, 5 touchdowns total. I think he tied the Bengals franchise record for touchdowns in a game or something crazy. They had the ball twice as long as us. They had it for 39 minutes. We only had it for 20. We only had 18 rushing attempts the entire game. We only had 30 passing attempts the entire game. It was just like former coach John Fox would say, it was just a bad day to have a bad day. And that's
what it is.
We're going to do this with that because I don't even think they're going to look at that film. They probably maybe glanced at it a little bit this morning. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even bother to look at it. I just be like, look, we got to land
Joe Mixon in that meeting room just watching his big runs. That's all he's
Oh
doing.
yeah, just sitting with some popcorn. Like, hey,
Big-
watch
big
what I
run-
do to this right.
big runs, yards over 5, yards over 10, yards over 15, and all the touchdown runs.
Brad Holt, how does a whole defense break down? Again, I think it was just a cumulative effect of that first quarter. They took that first drive down and scored a touchdown. So hit you right in the face. They get the ball back after we go 3 and out. They go right back down, score a touchdown. Hit you in the face. You're down 14-0 already. It's like halfway through the first quarter. And it just kind of kept going and going, where it was like every time they touched the ball, they would run it down our throats. It's one of those things where I've said I'm old school. I prefer a team that runs first because I feel like that breaks your spirit faster than, who was it? Pat Mahomes that threw for like 60-something attempts yesterday, or 70 or something crazy yesterday. Tom Brady threw for over 50 times yesterday. Those aren't sustainable to me. You can't do that every game. You can run the ball 30 times a game if you really want to. You really can.
You got to.
It's a mentality. Cincinnati came out with a mentality to run this football. And look at Joe Burrow's stats in this game. He was 22 for 28, 206 yards, 1 touchdown. And that was to Joe Mixon. So, I mean, all he did was game manage really yesterday. He didn't have his top receiver. He completed passes. He moved the sticks. That's all he had to do yesterday. If they needed 400-yard passing Joe Burrow, he can do that too. But that's all he needed. So we're going 42-21.
Think about this too, though, right? For offensive linemen, you would rather run block.
Yes.
You would rather run block if you're an offensive lineman. So you kind of look at this game like coming off of, again, for them, the Cleveland Browns, Joe Burrow had people on his lap all year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a problem for them.
I think
So
they
you want to know what they did? They adjusted, and they said, hey, we're going to use this game to get back on track. Offensive line, we're going to throw you a bone, and we're going to run the ball. So that way, the defensive line and the defense has to be on their heels, okay? And so when it is time to pass the ball, pass blocking, protection, you've drilled it down, down the gut for the whole game, bruising up a defense. Pass blocking all of a sudden isn't that bad. So,
I mean, maybe the Bengals stumbled on a recipe for them for the rest of the year, because maybe they were leaning on Burrow too much the first half of the year, which I can understand. You get a toy like that, you kind of want to play with them, but maybe they stumbled on something here with what they did yesterday, and they're only a game out of first in their division. The Ravens play tonight, but the Ravens are leading that division. The Bengals are right on their tail, so I mean, they had something to play for. Some questions from the open mailbag here. My boy Blue Dante Jackson's on the sideline with a ball cap on all game. What was up with that? He was active yesterday. He was still nursing an injured ankle. They basically had him dressed in an emergency situation in case they needed a cornerback real quick. That was one of the ways he was going to get in that game yesterday. And I think someone mentioned something about Jeremy Chin earlier. Brad Tippett said he hadn't been activated from IR. That is not true, Brad. He has been activated from IR. They just held him out this game this past week. He will be available Thursday night. They basically held him for the division game. So Jeremy Chin will be playing Thursday. I would imagine Dante will play Thursday as well. They probably held him back as a precaution for that too, which goes to what Stu was saying earlier, where it almost feels like the Panthers coaching staff treated the Bengals game for what it was, a non-conference game, and you got a conference game coming up 4 days later. Some of these guys have got some bumps and scratches and whatnot. Let's just sit them for this game, and we'll look at our division. Even if we lose this game, we're still only 2 games back. So let's kind of play the long game here. And from the outside looking in, it looks utterly nuts, but it's true. I mean, it's completely true. We're 2 games out of first place. We're 7-9, or not, 2-7. So. Yeah, man. I think that could win it. Let's get into some news that happened from earlier this morning with the staff because of what happened yesterday. The Panthers fired cornerbacks coach Evan Cooper and defensive line coach Paul Pasqualoni. Steve Wilkes let them go this morning. Cooper was a Matt Rule guy. He got hired in 2020. Pasqualoni came on this season. He's a former head coach at Syracuse and UConn. He's a former NFL assistant coach, college assistant coach. He's 73 years old. He's been around a lot. Defensive assistant Bobby Maffei and interim defensive coordinator Al Holcomb will help with the defensive backs. Don Johnson and assistant Terrence Knighton will coach the defensive linemen. Wilkes will oversee the whole thing. Carolina was outgained 464 to 228 in the loss yesterday, giving up 5 rushing touchdowns. So kind of a surprise that they let him go. Not really, though, when you dig into who was who and what was what. I'm surprised Cooper was still here, to be honest. It seems like they cleaned out most of the Matt Rule guys on the roster. But he's gone. Pasqualoni's gone. And they did it on a Monday so they could prepare on a short week. You know, the fact that they fired some staff on a short week, I think that speaks volumes, too, that you're willing to switch this stuff up. And you've got 3 days to prep for a divisional opponent that you just saw. I don't know. It's an interesting time to be a Panther fan.
Yeah, a lot of changes, man. So if you ain't winning these games, that's what's bound to happen.
Here's a bright spot, Panther fans. Ike Ekwonu was the best offensive tackle pick for this past draft. 0 sacks allowed since week 2. He's just gotten better and better and better as the weeks have gone on. As much as I've clowned Matt Rule and the past couple of years, I've been adamant that the one thing they were good at was drafting. Their drafts have been pretty good, in my opinion, especially the last 2. There were some picks you're kind of like head scratchers, but for the most part, the high picks are stalwarts of the team. Derek Brown, Jeremy Chin, J.C. Horn, Icky, like those are going to be guys who are going to be here for, a decade or whatever. So they did some good. Coach Potrose, it's your time to shine. Did you see Jeff Saturday? He's going to be the interim head coach for the Colts.
Yeah.
They fired Frank, right?
Yeah.
You ever thought about going into coaching?
Me?
Yeah.
Boy, nah. They don't get no sleep.
Steve did look like a little tired. He looked a little tired at the podium.
They don't get no sleep. Only way I go coach is if Rivera or Wilkes hit me up. But I know there's that whole world it's a different world, man. Like, you think players like have it bad as far as time and schedule? Coaches don't sleep.
Yeah.
At all.
I remember the stories of John Gruden talking about just staying at the facility and just sleeping there like during the week or whatever. Like, I couldn't imagine.
I mean, the situation would have to be like amazing for me to coach. Put it that way.
Let's move ahead to Thursday, because since it's a Thursday night game and normally we put out our preview episode on Thursdays, we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to do a quick preview now, so you'll have this throughout the week to be able to listen to or watch or whatnot. The game is Thursday night. We'll be back Friday. Schuyler will have his triumphant return from his honeymoon, probably all tan. He's going to come in wearing some shades. He's probably feeling great.
Probably got a gold chain.
He was like, he must be in a good mood because he was like, I haven't even watched that game yet. So I was like, yeah, you haven't missed anything. just throw it away. He'll be back Friday, and we'll do a recap of Thursday's game. The Falcons yesterday, matter of fact, let me just go find. They lost to the Chargers 20-17. They lost. The Chargers kicked a game-winning field goal. After, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. So they lost by 3. They were tied up. The Chargers had a fumble by Austin Eckler with 34 seconds left. His fumble was recovered by Taquan Graham from the Falcons. While he was returning the football, he fumbled it. The Chargers, Matt Feeler, the left guard, he recovered it at the Atlanta 43. Then Justin Herbert had a 22-yard pass to Joshua Palmer, and that set up the kicker's kick as time expired. The loss prevented the Falcons from moving above 500 for the first time since 2017. That's something I didn't realize. And they would have took control of first place. They were already in first place when the day started, but they would have took more firm control over first place with a win. But right now it's just jumbled in the NFC South. Tampa Bay 4-5, Atlanta 4-5, New Orleans 3-5, Carolina 2-7. Your thoughts Stu, on Thursday, and how hard is it to turn around this quickly for a player? Did you like? Does any player like Thursday night games?
Nah.
Okay.
NAW. It's just such a quick turnaround. Like usually, like Thursdays when your body's like, oh, I kind of feel like I can practice tomorrow, but instead Thursdays when you have to play. So, yeah, it's a tough turnaround.
Those games always feel sloppy too when we watch them on TV.
And I think usually the best game plan going into a Thursday night game is to run the ball. And so you already know what's expected. We need to stop the run, control the line of scrimmage like we did when we played them last. And really the run pass, the RPO. That's where we have to be solid on defense.
Oh man, I thought about you and Schuyler yesterday, and that actually I think I turned the TV off somewhere around the fourth quarter and went to listen to the rest on the radio in the car. And shout out to the Panthers radio team, Anish Shroff, Jim Zoki, all those guys. When Baker came in, did you notice they started running RPO? Did you notice that? Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. I just, as soon as he came in, it was shotgun, pistol formation, that long handoff, and then Baker trying to like run to the right or the left or whatever. We haven't seen that in 3 weeks with PJ in there. Like, why? Like, I don't understand. Is that the only part of the playbook that Baker knew comfortably? Because
maybe that's like their universal language.
Something. Because I about threw my remote control at the TV when I saw it. Like at this point, we were already down like 40-0 or whatever it was. So I'm just kind of sitting there like this, like watching the game. And Baker comes in and they start running RPO, and I'm like, huh? Like, what is happening, Ben McAdoo? Why is this happening? I noticed that, and I don't know why they were doing it. Maybe they let PJ run some of those on a Thursday. Quick, who would you only want to coach for the Panthers? I guess that's a question of who do you want to be the next head coach of the Panthers, Stu? I think you're on board with Wilks. Yeah. I mean, you've played with him before. I mean, he's been a coach on staffs of teams that you've been on before. You know the man. So, I mean, it's probably an easy pick for you. I'm fine with Wilks if Wilks produces results here in his tryout right here. But I've already said, Willie, I'm on the Jim Harbaugh bus. Back up a Brinks truck to Ann Arbor and be like, Harbaugh, we know you want to come back. He just interviewed for the Vikings job last year, and it just didn't. They didn't basically do what he was asking for. I can easily see David Tepper wanting to make a splash. If we've got I hate to look that far ahead, but say you got a high pick, you're going to get a young quarterback that Harbaugh can have a say in picking. You already got some defensive guys on the line. You got an offensive line that they fixed the past 2 years, which is Harbaugh's thing, is making sure those lines are his type of offense, defensive line. You got pieces. It looks like San Francisco all over again if he walks in here and has an opportunity to put a quarterback in he wants and everything else. And he's an identity that matches the Panthers. He coaches tough nose, run the football, play defense, turnovers. It's all the stuff we talk about. It fits. Now, would he want to come here? I don't know. I think money would convince him, and I think David Tepper would do it. But again, we have a half season before we even have to. That's all January talk. We'll get to all that as we get to the end of the year. They are rocking the all-black uniforms on Thursday night. However, Brad, I hate to mention it to you. I don't know the exact numbers, but we are not good in the black uniforms.
Are they wearing the black helmets, though?
I think it's all black everything Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken.
The black helmets might add a little spice to it.
Yeah, I know we got like a horrific record in all black. And I think those uniforms won like some kind of contest of like the best uniforms in the NFL a couple of years ago. It was the Panther all black uniform. And Panther Nation was like, oh man, because we lose. Like every time we wear it, we're hot coming out the tunnel. We looking fresh, and then we end up losing that game usually. So we'll see. I hope that they can.
So that must mean that it's usually always like a Thursday night game, right?
Yeah, it's usually like a night game, like a Thursday night game, Monday night game. They'll rock them, or a late afternoon Sunday game. They'll rock them, and I think they only do it once or twice a season, really. So I mean. We'll see. I do think they're one of the best uniforms in the NFL, but we'll see what happens with that. Cordell Patterson is back with the Falcons. He was not with them when we played them last week. He was still injured, so that's a key. Your thoughts on this Atlanta Falcons team? We just saw him last week. What do you think the Panthers need to do to get a win here on a short week, Stu?
Run the ball.
I mean, that's true.
Run the ball. Run the ball and just keep the ball on offense as long as possible.
So stick to the script.
Stick to the script. You know, you don't have to take huge chunks, but you don't want to take every shot lateral. You want to move down the field. So trust your quarterback. They got PJ coming back up. So I mean, I appreciate that move. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what, keeping PJ?
That's keeping PJ as a starter for this game, because that's really sending a message to the team. Like, we all mess up sometimes, right? And like, this is really what Coach Wilkes is saying. Like, hey, like, you had a bad game, we had bad cards, whatever it is. Like, let's shake it off and move forward on a short week. You played these guys. You played these guys before, and you played a heck of a game, and that's what we need you to do.
And we're at home.
Period. Point blank. And we're at home.
You know, it's a night game. We can show out a little bit. We're going to be on Amazon Prime. I do agree with Wilkes in that little bit of the press conference we saw, courtesy of Panthers.com, where when they were asking about PJ starting, and he was like, well, if I bench PJ for his play Sunday, I'd have to bench a lot of people for their play on Sunday. Like, it wasn't just PJ. Like, the whole team played very poorly. So I kind of agree. You can't really bench PJ off of that because nobody did anything. So it wasn't like PJ was out there, you know, just throwing 3-4 interceptions and everybody else was playing well and we lost because of PJ. Right. No, I don't think that would have mattered if PJ was playing great. It just, the whole team played bad. And it feels like we're good for one of those this season. We'll have one game that just, like, there's no explanation for it. No matter who the coach is, you just run into a buzzsaw someplace, and it feels like we get about one of them. Hopefully that was the only one. I don't want any more of those. That was not fun on Sunday.
I honestly feel good about this Thursday.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you look at the film, last game, what was our problem? Couldn't stop RPO. Stop RPO. And then we'll get them to have 3 and outs. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the time of possession, like, get these. I want to see at least 30 first downs from the Carolina Panthers, because that will really establish, like, okay, you can actually control a game.
You just ran for 160 plus yards on this team 10 days ago.
So let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Like,
do it again.
And they're thinking about it.
And I would love to see. I would love to see them get Chenault involved in this game as well. But obviously, DJ Moore needs to get the ball. There needs to be a commitment to him in the early and often. And then obviously, you know, TMJ. I mean, I liked what they did with, you know, Baker coming in there at the end and giving him a lob in the end zone. You know, those are, at the end of the day, they lost, but it was a good rep. Of things that we can expect to see from TMJ. And something, we got some players, man. We just need to go out there and execute, and that's a broken record by now. But you know, they're hearing it too. They're dealing with it. They're prepping. And again, players play, coaches coach. I really appreciate the move that, you know, Wilkes is making with, you know, getting PJ back in there.
Let me ask you this before we get out of here. In terms of PJ and the quarterback room, because now it's crowded again, because Sam Darnold just came off of really became available today. His 21-day window ended, or would have ended Tuesday, so he's now active. Baker Mayfield got in the second half in relief for PJ. And pretty much the positive yards you see from our box score is from Baker being in there in the second half. And then you got PJ, who started the past couple of games, has had flashes of looking good, looking average. But he hasn't done anything in my mind to completely separate himself from the other two. I'm literally sitting here wondering, do I want to see Sam Darnold out there again? Because the last time we saw Sam Darnold, he had a depleted offense and his stats were starting to go down. But at the beginning of the year last year, when he had all of his pieces, he was playing pretty well. So is there a short leash for PJ? It's probably the best question I could ask you with both of those quarterbacks now active and possibly ready to go. They're paying them both $18 million plus, no matter if they play or not. But if PJ's shaky Thursday night, is that the end of the PJ Walker experiment too? Because that'd be 2 games straight and 3 of 4, really.
I mean, if we start playing football the way we did against the Cincinnati Bengals,
It's gonna be a short night.
I think you might. It's definitely going to be a short night. So I just hope that we go out there and really, put some plays together, some sequences together that really show, that these guys can actually ball.
Again, they're kind of running out of road, but we'll see what they can do. We'll see what they can do. You want to give a prediction for this one?
I'm gonna go 24-17. Panthers.
I think this is gonna be a real ugly game. I think it's gonna be a rock fight between two teams that are struggling right now, kind of. I think it's gonna be a low scoring game too. I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm giving it to the Panthers because they're at home and they really need it. So I'm trying to will this into existence. I'm gonna go 17-13 Carolina. And even that, I feel like it might be less than that.
Like
to win this game.
13-10?
Yeah, one of these real low scoring field goal type games where neither team can really get a grip. Because I'm taking into account it's Thursday. And I cannot remember a single Thursday night game ever that I've watched where I was like, man, this is some good football. Like I can't think of a single one where I'm like, did you see that Thursday night game? Like they were balling on Thursday. They always look like they're kind of sore to me. Like they'll tackle you, but they ain't gonna run through you as if it was Sunday. Like
a lot of business decisions made on Thursday.
Yeah, and maybe Atlanta's looking at it like, okay, this is a game that we can kind of let slide a little bit because we still got a little traction in the division. Carolina needs it more than Atlanta does, which is weird to say. But, yeah, I'm going to go like 17-13 Carolina. Eventually, I'm going to have to start. If they keep losing these games, eventually I'm going to have to turn to Schuyler and start picking another team. I realize I've been picking Carolina every week. They disappointed me every single time I pick them. I think the ones I didn't pick them were the ones they won. So maybe it's me. Maybe it's me, Panther Nation. Maybe I'm jinxing the team. Who knows? So, oh, wait. I think you're on mute, Stu.
Oh, yeah. I said don't give yourself too much credit.
They deserve the majority of it for sure. They deserve they reap what they sow. But yeah, your final text from last night still rings true, Panther Nation. We're still in this. As weird as it sounds. 2-7.
Stay prayed up. Stay prayed up. Stay solid. Read your Bible. Make sure y'all have family dinners this week.
Yeah, because it's wild to me that we're still in it. I feel good about it because we have to do a podcast on this, and it makes me feel better that we're not mathematically eliminated 9 weeks into the season. Because any other year, it feels like we would be at this point at 2-7. We're not the only ones struggling. Imagine if you were a Green Bay Packer fan right now. Like they going through it. They had aspirations. Like they going through it right now. So
I knew out the gate when Devontae Adams got up out of there. Aaron was by himself.
He just I hope that bag keeps him warm at night because that's really the only reason.
At the end of the day, he got a bag, so I don't feel bad for him.
He got a big old Scrooge McDuck bag at that. So I mean,
that might be one of their problems. I don't know how they finances being Green Bay.
I got to put my man on layaway. Like,
where do you think Odell Beckham's going to go?
I would imagine he'll go to one of these top teams, but what do you have, an ACL? He tore his ACL?
Yeah.
How long does it take? It's like a year to come back from that, isn't it? At least. It's only been even a year yet. It's been like 8 months. I wouldn't mind seeing him in Dallas, to be honest.
Yeah, I want to say Dallas would be nice.
Green Bay. I feel like if he goes to Green Bay, he'll end up being.
No, I don't want him to go to Green Bay.
No, stay away from there, OBJ, because I feel like if things go wrong, he's going to become the scapegoat if he's there.
It's Aaron Rodgers and Odell didn't give. And
I don't think that would work.
Just put him over there to Dak, over there with Dak and them.
That would work. That would work, and I think he would be willing to do that too. Is he close to coming back? Because I keep hearing his name popping up.
I mean, he must be. I mean, he got hurt in the Super Bowl, which was in February.
Yeah,
so, I mean, he's right on track. It's 9 months. So, I mean, by the time if a team grabs him right now, we got 8 games left. He might be ready to go last two games of the season, and be ready for that playoff and go try to find another Super Bowl.
What if he went to like Tampa Bay?
You need to go ahead and come to Carolina.
Hey, come on in here. Come on in here and give PJ some targets. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stop it right here. Carolina, Atlanta, Thursday night, 8:05 p.m. Amazon Prime. So it's not on regular TV. You got to have Amazon Prime to watch this game Thursday night. Schuyler will be back with us Friday. We'll recap the game. We'll probably do a little around the NFL as well. I'm sure we'll have something for Tell 'em Why You're Mad since we're playing on Thursday, so that'll be in there as well. It's also open mailbox each episode, so you guys chime in. Something real quicker before we get out of here. Brad makes an interesting point. Carolina wins 24-20. Then Atlanta loses the following week, like all the teams have the week after playing us. Fun fact, every single team that has beaten us this year has lost the following week. I don't know what that means. I don't know what to do with it, but that's there. So either you can look at it like, well, man, we really wearing these teams out. They get the win and then they lose the next week. Or it's just a fluky coincidence. But either way, and Atlanta's on a bye next week. So we'll have to wait 2 weeks to see if it's still the case. No, Cincy's on a bye this upcoming week. So we'll see if that's the case when they come back. But we'll be back Friday afternoon. So check your social media accounts and whatnot and the YouTube channel for the notification for that. For Jonathan Stewart, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast on Bleav Podcast Networks. Keep pounding.